Okay, welcome to episode 3 of rental house versus high income ETFs. We had a rental house that we sold a while back. We took the $70,000 that we collected from the sale of that house and we invested it into high income ETFs. So this is episode 3. So I kind of went over this slide before in details. Just quickly, the rental income is $700, I'm figuring. We owned that property for 8 years. We sold it October 2024. The figures based on the rental house going forward is based on the prior history. So what we did, we sold the house, and what I want to do is compare what life would be if we would have kept the rental versus selling it and taking the 70,000 and putting it into an investment, something besides a CD or something like that. So in the right-hand column, the high-income ETFs, we invested the 70,000. The goal is to earn between 20 to 35% annually, and it's a dedicated account. No other funds are going to commingle in this account, just so it's easier to figure out. And I already said the money invested in this is from the sale of the rental property, and this is using real money, real results, real ups, real downs, as this month will show you. So we have a Robinhood account, and we're using margin. And currently, we have equity of approximately 75,000. We are using margin. We have $60,000 in margin. So the total market value is 135,426. Down here, you can see what we have our money invested in. We have two ETFs currently. We have the ETF, the Rex Financial AIPI ETF. We have 500 shares of that. Current price is $50.10. We've paid an average of $50.70 for it. Total return since we've invested is down $300. We have $25,000 approximately in equity with that one. The other fund we have is QDTE, 2,700 shares. Current value $40.88. Average cost $42.59. We're down 4,626 and some change. We have $110,000 in value. So this is the end of December 2024, and this last week in December, the markets have really took a dip. So that's where I'm sitting here with this this drop in total return. In a previous video, I mentioned that the net asset value, I didn't expect it to grow very much. These are high dividend paying funds. So I expect the cost to stay relatively around the average cost that we paid for it. So you see the AIPI is pretty close. The QDTE has dropped not quite $2 a share. So these pay dividends. QDTE, we'll start down here at the bottom. On December 6th, the QDTE paid a dividend of $613. So these pay weekly, once again. December 13th, it paid $427. Then December 20th, it paid $2,347. Then AIPI, right here, paid $668. Now, AIPI only pays once a month. QDTE pays once a week. And then the last dividend, the date is missing from here, but on December 27th, it paid $2,170. Now these last two dividends from QDTE, the over 2,000, I believe those are high because the fund is cleaning up some tax issues for the end of the year. And don't quote me on anything. None of this is financial advice, tax advice, or any kind of advice except for perhaps bad advice. So anyhow, I believe they were cleaning up some tax things for the end of the year for tax filing purposes. And so they had to pay out a little extra dividend to clean that up. Either way, I like those big dividends. So you notice that the net asset value dropped like 4,000 some odd dollars. And I think part of that is because anytime a stock or ETF pays a dividend, that money comes out of the net asset value. So when you're paying $4,000 or $5,000 in dividends in a month, that comes off the net asset value. And with the combination of the stock market kind of taking a mini bit of a dive the past week or so, showed that loss. So here again, here's the dividends we received in December. Up here's November. So something that I added this month that I didn't have in here last month, I mentioned margin, and the margin is less than 6% on that 60,000. So for the month of December here on 12/8/2024, I paid $254 in margin. In November, I paid $110. Reason why that's jumped up is because I started this whole little project the very end of October. So I only had less than 2 weeks of margin approximately here. So that's why that one was lower. The other thing I'll mention about November is that there were 5 Fridays in November, and QDTE pays every Friday, and then AIPI pays once a month, approximately around the 27th of the month. So one thing I wanted to point out also, let's go back here. I call this QDTE, and that's what it is. But here it says 0. That's the number 0DTE, and that stands for 0 day to expiration. So that has to do with these being covered call type ETFs, which I'm not going to go into exactly what covered call ETFs are in this video because that deserves its own video, and I'll cover that somewhere later. If you don't know what a covered call is in general, or a covered call ETF, you can easily search that on YouTube and find the answer. We covered this slide here for the most part. So for the month of December, this 5,974 is the dividends that we earned in December, and that's including taking off the 254 for margin. Total for 2 months, we've collected $9,492 in dividends. Next slide. Over here on the left, it says projected. I want an idea of what I might be able to expect. So first column here, I have the date. The yellow is where we're at right now. So it's actually not quite January 1st, but I've received all the dividends I'm going to be receiving for the month of December. Projected, what I expect it to do is this first column here says equity. This is the amount of equity that my 70,000, I'm hoping for it to grow. So I started at 70,000. November, I expect to have 72,000. And then January 1st, about almost 75,000. The next column here is the amount of margin I plan on using. And you see that says 56,000. If we jump way over here, calculate that I'm going to be using about 75% margin. The plan was to have about 75,000 in equity, using about 56,000 in margin. And the margin and the equity added together makes that total earning dividends is 131,000. And my goal, this 3.5%, this jumping from like 70,000 to 72.4, and then from 72.4 to almost 75, these are 3.5% jumps. So this column, these columns here are everything that's kind of projected in my plan. So if you go down here to 12/1/2026, if things hit my projection, I'll have 165,000. I'll be using 124 in margin. I'll have almost 290,000 that will be invested earning dividends, and the total gain will be 136%. So I've added some columns from the previous month to explain things a little better. Over here, this part over here is actually what's happening. So I started out with 70,000 with 50,000 in margin. I started out with 120,000 invested. After the first 4 weeks, things were going great. I had 74,166 in equity. My margin had jumped up to 57,000. Had a total of 131,000 invested. And that gain the first month was 5.95%. So the jump from 70,000 to 74,166 is 5.95. And over here is the amount of margin I'm actually using. I started out 71% and I went up to 77%. So the month of December, we had that really bad week, the last week of December. The bad news about that was that things dropped. I'm kind of my average, what I paid for things has dropped. So that's the bad news. You see the margin jumped up to 60,000. I actually, when things dropped, I jumped in and I actually bought more shares of both AIPI and QDTE. So that explains why my margin jumped to 60,000. I'm actually up to 80% using margin. I'm going to work on getting that back down to about 75%, which I plan on doing over here. But since the price of those shares had dropped quite a bit, I thought it was a good buying opportunity, and I have quite a bit of margin buying power. I don't want to get too far into margin where if prices keep dropping, they'll require me to sell some shares or put more money into it. I have quite a big buffer as it is right now, so I'm not really worried about that. So if the prices keep dropping, I'll just keep averaging buying more shares and getting the average cost per share down. So now let's jump over and look at our rental house. So far we haven't talked about the rental house too much. So what I'm doing here, pretend like we collected $700 in rent. We had insurance for $80 a month, real estate tax $200, and I changed this spreadsheet a little bit. So it showed at the end of the first month we had $420 in cash. That's the 700 minus these debits. With starting out with the equity of 70,000, the house is worth 70,000. You add in the equity, which I'm showing the equity down here growing 4% a year, so 0.333% per month. If my ETFs are growing each month, I think it's only fair that I calculate that my rental house is growing each month too. So 70,233. Add in over here the the profit for the month, the 420, plus how much the equity has grown, 70,653. And then you have the month of December, collected $700 in rent, insurance, real estate tax, formula carries down. We're at $840 in cash. Our equity has grown another 0.333%. The equity is not being compounded monthly. I took 4%, divided it by 12, and it's growing this 0.33% per month off the original 70,000, which is $233. So you add the equity that it's grown plus the money in the cash balance, we have 71,306. If I would have kept the house, that's how much I'd be up after 2 months. So once again, the rental house is 71,306. These are actually December results, not November. The ETF for, once again, this is the end of December, not November. I forgot to update this slide. $75,034. So total to date, the ETF is up 37.28 over what the rental house would be. So far, after 2 months, the ETFs are up $3,728. Okay, so I'm going to start updating this once a week. I've had several people kind of ask me like how this is working when the market had dipped and gone up on a weekly basis. And since the QDTE pays every Friday, I'll update this every Friday. And what I'll do is refer to these. We have episode 3. I'll call the next one episode 3.1, and then the next one 3.2, and then episode 4 will be the end of the month updates. If you don't want to watch the weekly updates and just want to watch the monthly updates, keep an eye out for episode 4, which will come out in a month. If you want to see how this is doing each week, and I'll make the weekly updates shorter, faster, and quicker. Those would be like episodes 3.1. Okay, if you like this, go ahead and subscribe and give it a thumbs up and do everything that you can do to help make this worth my while. And whether you like disasters, seeing people lose all their money, this might be for you. If you want to see somebody do some risky stuff and turn 70,000 into 200,000 in 2 years, this might be for you. So once again, this is not financial advice or tax advice, or I'm not recommending anybody do this. This money is not my retirement. if I lose it all, life goes on as normal. I don't want to lose $70,000, but I don't think I'm going to. So there you have it.